Good evening, everyone. I'm Louis Marinucci, and I'm the Secretary for Underwater for All. Please stay seated as your host, Nicole Zelek, will be joining us very shortly.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, we are having a few technical difficulties. And I'm sure that Gareth Lock, who is coming today, will rip into me a little bit about it. But we are trying something new for the first time. We are live streaming in a studio format, and we've done this plenty of times at home virtually. And now we've grown bigger and faster. And now we're trying to get the projector running. So please bear with us and be a little bit extra graceful with us during any snafus that might happen during the stream today. Louis, can you make our... Louis, I want to introduce everybody to Louis, who is our Secretary of Underwater for All. And Louis has been a live streamer before, and now we are utilizing Louis's experience to help us bring live streams to our nonprofit. Now, you also see a few folks from our freediving community in the little window. They're going to be coming in as the show goes on. And now that the studio here physically is now officially set up, mostly, we are going to bring on our guests. So first, I wanted to introduce everybody to somebody I admire very, very much. His name is Gareth Lock, and he is known as the founder of the Human Diver. And if you know me and you're a friend of mine, you know I talk about this nonstop. So you finally get to meet the man himself, and I'm going to let him into the room and let him say a few words about himself and what he does.
Good evening. Thanks very much. It's all about learning and dealing with sort of dynamic environments. So interesting to see how you're getting on here.
Yeah, getting on. We did a really cool exercise with Gareth where you're going to have to remind folks of what the title is, but we had to command a spaceship with a team, and it felt exactly like this. When the spaceship goes faster and you reach further heights, you're bound to run into some technical difficulties. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes. So those who don't know me, my background is military aviation, and then nearly 10 years ago, formally moved into teaching human factors, non-technical skills into the diving space. And I now run a global company teaching these sorts of materials, which is all about improving diving safety, understanding adverse events, and creating just culture within the environment so we can learn from those things that don't go to plan, because invariably people are trying to do the best they can with the resources they've got. So, and thank you for the invite, and we'll see what I can do to help.
Yeah, we've got one more guest in here, and that is Matt Hayner. And actually, Matt Hayner is the star of the show.
Whoa.
Maybe he wasn't expecting to be the star of the show, but I kind of put him on the spot. So I'm going to throw him a lot of kudos, because Matt was a central player in the incident that we are going to discuss today. And he's just really cool and also cares about building a culture of safety. So we brought him in to really participate and share. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Great. Thank you, Nicole. My name is Matt Hayner. I'm been a New Yorker for about 30 years. was introduced to diving at a young age. In high school, I got certified for open water, but my life kind of went in a different direction. I went into music and moved to New York to play music. And through Everett, who's in the audience right there, I was introduced to all you guys in Super Dive. Just really happy to be part of the community and learning free diving. And thank you so much for having me. And Garrett, I just saw you. Gareth, I just saw you on Dive Talk.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you I was watching the show yesterday. I think you were talking about an incident too.
Yes, yeah. So I was 2 weeks ago. I was down in Atlanta, Georgia, running an instructor development class for the DSO down there, and Woody and Gus live just around the corner, about 45 minutes. So they asked me to go around and have an interview. So it was good. It was good. There was more stuff I wanted to talk about, but didn't really have an opportunity to. So, but hopefully I got some people thinking about how we look at adverse events and trying to reduce the judgment that happens when things do go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting to hear your take on what happened to Woody, and very interesting.
We can't hear you, Nicole.
I'm going to also introduce the folks that we have in the audience today. And they're probably going to trickle in little by little, but we'll start with whoever's here. And whoever wants to. And if you don't want to be on camera, just let me know. This is this is Leo.
Hi.
Leo,
Hi.
why don't you tell everybody who you are? And
Hi. My name is Leo, and I'm currently a lifeguard. I met Nicole and Robbie through scuba and mermaid, and I lifeguarded on that shift, and I got to watch a lot of things. And to tell you the truth, I had a lot of fun. I remember I got to mermaid. Thanks so much to that.
yeah. So we're gonna do super brief introductions to anybody who wants to, and then we'll go into, because you have an important story to share. Anybody want to say hi? No? Cool. You don't have to.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Luis does.
Lewis.
Hi, Leo. I'm Lewis.
Lewis is saying hi to you.
Hi.
So
I want to tell you this. I also used to be a lifeguard myself, and let me tell you this. I'm still trying to finish my free diving training with Nicole here, and I met her because of free diving and mermaiding. And you see, I'm also working on becoming a professional merman, and I'm also a scuba diver.
all right.
And
Hold on,
yeah,
everybody.
that's all I have to say.
I'm going to steer us back and let everybody know what the agenda is tonight. I want to say that I really appreciate our community, because everybody has seen us build this community from the ground up. This has been a grassroots freediving movement from when Otis and I became the first freediving instructors, I think, in the area, and we started making friends and bringing folks in, and it's grown. And because everybody's so chill, I felt very confident to just start this studio live stream in this format, and know that they're chuckling to themselves, but are excited to see how the next one will be very much more refined. So without further ado, what we're going to do first is Gareth is going to just facilitate us talking about the incident. Okay. If you read the description, what happened is our community had that milestone that I was always waiting to see when it would happen, which is just the first hypoxic event that would occur. Because whenever you do anything that's risky with enough times, you're going to run into something that does not go as planned. Right, Gareth? More or less, is that correct?
The odds are always going to be stacked against you.
Yeah. And because we are trying to fight for legislation, because New York is saying breath holding is scary and risky, and therefore you shouldn't. In New York City, it is illegal to do competitive breath hold activities. So it should not be illegal. What we really need is education. And that's why we're going to embrace this incident and talk about it so that we can explore and model a culture of safety going forward. So yeah, that's going to be the first segment. Any questions before I let Gareth take it away? All right, and anybody who wants to participate, you can just jump right in. I'll let Gareth facilitate the conversation. He's no stranger to leading groups. So.
Right. Okay. So the first question I've got is, who was involved? and what was normal? So yeah. So I am completely naive to this. So I'm guessing, Matt, you were involved in this then?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was involved.
Okay. So a little bit of background, and so what does normal look like in terms of the sort of breath hold diving you do, and then so explore that.
Mm-hmm. So I've been practicing apnea, static apnea, and dynamic apnea since the summer of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and I can remember like my first memory of with Nicole as an instructor, and she was like poolside with us. We weren't even in the water, and she was like, "Okay, everyone's gonna hold their breath and see how long." She's not going to count down or anything. She's just going to see how long we can hold our breath. And my first experience, I had done that as a kid. I was kind of obsessed as a kid holding my breath in the pool, and like in hot tubs, I would like crawl under the seats of a hot tub and like see how long I could hold my breath under there. So I was prepared to like go to an extreme like right away. And I remember there was no time given, and I started squirming and like contractions. My legs were kind of like flailing around, and I had to take a breath, and at that point, like I realized I could go into a state of being very uncomfortable while breath holding, but it wasn't pleasurable. So for the first segments of training, I wanted to explore breath holding and have it be like a calm thing, So fast forwarding through a lot of training, we have another instructor named Matt who's kind of like focusing on conservative breath holds.
Yeah, kill the echo there, Nicole.
Yeah.
Go on then, Matt. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, focusing on conservative breath holds and not pushing in training. And this particular day, I believe it was maybe a week ago or maybe a little more, we were trying for personal bests, like in no fins dynamic. And I felt very calm for the dive. I went first. My daughter is also practicing free diving, and my wife was there. And so coming into the dive, pretty much the whole dive was very calm. Contractions were very mild. And I did have a goal in mind of going 4 lengths of 25 yards. My personal best up to that point was maybe, I think three laps, so 75 yards. And coming up to the last lap, I felt very calm. And
so what's the normal extension when you're pushing limits then? Because 25% seems like quite a big jump. What's the normal to push limits?
I'm not really sure about that.
Well,
But-
so that, I don't know whether or not Nicole can add something in there without echoing all over the place.
Yes, I'm going to try to. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine. You're not echoing, so that's good.
You can hear me. Okay. Actually, I wanted Matt to talk about that. So we have Matt, who is an instructor, and he's also a competitive freediver, and he might be able to speak a little bit more about pushing limits because he's a lot more experienced. Would you be willing to talk about to answer that question of what a normal jump is?
Yes, of course.
Hold on, I'm gonna.
It would be too much of a jump for a person who trains freediving for a long time. But this is a beginners group, and that was the first test we had. So we were establishing our baselines for training.
Okay. So one of the things then is, I was saying is, what does normal look like? So for a competitive where you're looking at marginal gains, 25% is a big jump, but for a sort of beginner level, 25% is a sort of a normal level of jump for pushing limits.
No, I would say it's still too much. But
Okay.
the point I wanted to make is that this group actually didn't have personal best. I think that Matt is referring to some other dive he did during the training, which I actually wouldn't consider as a personal best.
Okay.
All
right.
The training.
So okay. So you're feeling relaxed and you're going on that fourth lap as pushing beyond where you'd been before.
Yeah. So yeah, I was coming towards the wall, and I just felt that I should come out. I knew that I wasn't. I can't remember feeling stressed to the point of like a dangerous kind of like. I think there's a video of my dive, and there was no kind of like jerky movement underwater. I just went to the side. Nicole was obviously following me the whole time.
I think I'm going to jump in and provide a little bit of context because we have a few viewers on here, and I'm not sure if everybody knows that much. That's one of the reasons that we're doing this is because breath hold safety is widely misunderstood. Matt was talking when he first started holding his breath as a beginner because you started with me, and it's difficult, and you feel that discomfort and you think you're going to die and your brain starts to panic and you rush to the surface because you think that you have no oxygen. But actually that feeling is tied to a buildup of CO2, and it's not an indicator of your oxygen levels. And that's the problem, is that our bodies have a CO2 alarm, but it does not have an oxygen alarm. So Chris Catelli is saying, you're lost. Yes, we will describe the incident after I just, why don't we start there? Matt was pushing limits and had an LMC, a loss of motor control. Loss of motor control is usually a precursor to a blackout. If a blackout is that your brain doesn't have enough oxygen and the lights shut off, a LMC is that the lights are starting to flicker. And therefore, Matt's body starts to feel jerky, and he came up, and instead of inhaling and breathing and doing his recovery breaths, he was a little bit dazed, and the proper procedure was to help him up, secure him, and remind him to breathe. And he had these jerky movements and was sputtering. There was this lip sputtering. So in freediving, that's the problem. When you're going to have an accident, you don't feel the same panic that maybe is a precursor to a lot of scuba accidents. In freediving, you just feel relaxed and calm. And therefore, freediving can be dangerous because of the lack of an oxygen alarm. Matt, you said you did have a voice that was in your head that said, come up now. But I'll bet you that that wasn't your body's voice. I'll bet you that was Matt, instructor Matt, and his scolding, Matt, don't push yourself too hard this time. So that was probably Matt's voice, as opposed to, the oxygen alarm, which your body does not have. Does that help our viewers out? And does that help everybody to understand that we're on the same page about the accident? Are there any questions?
No. From my side, I'm not a breath hold diver, but I know that hypoxia is one of the issues with hypoxia is there's no detection capability.
I don't even know.
That didn't work very well. So yeah, the whole piece about hypoxia is you don't know it's coming, but the CO2 triggers can certainly help on that. There was a question that was useful there.
Yeah, there was a question. I saw it briefly. I think it did I do any breath
so
hold
how did you
manipulation?
how did you breathe before the breath hold? Did you manipulate your breath in any way?
I just had I think it was a 2-minute breathe up for freediving, which is kind of like tidal breathing.
Three. I think we did a 3.
3 minute, okay. 3-minute tidal breath. So no hyperventilating, of course, for freediving, and very even, calm breaths, followed by a deep inhale. That's your final breath would be a deep inhale.
So one of the things I talk about a lot of the time is safety is not just the absence of accidents and incidents, but rather it's the presence of barriers and defenses and the capacity of the system to fail safely. So one of the things that I understand is, breath hold, there is just so much variability, inter and intra-person variability. So you're doing the preparations as best you can. You've got a safety diver. So Nicole, I understood that you're in the water as well, and then you've got somebody on the surface. So
I was on the edge of the pool. We had other folks in the water, but I was walking alongside the edge. Okay.
So bit then is, so what does the fail safely look like in this environment, and how do you step in before it becomes critical? Now that's a question to you guys. I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question is, how do you, because of that variability and the fact that you don't have an oxygen alarm, what is it that you're using as cues and clues to detect that something is going wrong, both from your side, Matt, internally? But the problem is, if you're in a hypoxic situation, your decision-making is seriously clouded. So now what's the external detection and recovery capability that exists?
Probably him pushing is one of the only alarms that, well, I was slightly noticing him veer a little bit off course, but just the fact that he went further than he had ever done before in front of me was a cue for me that I have to pay extra attention now. When he went for that third for the turn, he had never. I don't know if he had ever done that turn before, but that was a cue. I was right there in with you.
Okay, so the bit then to me is, Matt, were you planning on doing a fourth length before you got in the water?
I was, yeah.
Right. So from a team point of view then, so a lot of what I do is in the team situation where we will do a brief, we'll set people up for success. Is it normal that the diver will then speak to the safety team to say, this is what my intention is? And if it's the normal piece, what stopped that happening on this particular occasion? What was different on this occasion where you went from 3 to 4, but the rest of the team didn't know that that was the case?
Yeah, I definitely probably should have told.
But
somebody.
so one of the things to try to get away from is the should have, could have, would have counterfactuals, because they don't help us tell a story.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you can reflect back on that says what was different, and basically saying, right, I'm going to do something different now, and then not necessarily tell Nicole or Matt or whoever's in the safety team that that's what the protocol is? And is there a structured protocol in the team that says this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to brief, and these are the limits that we're going to follow for whatever the activity that's there?
Yeah.
Matt did indicate that he was going to go above 75, because we had 3 different warm-ups. Our Matt with 1T, the instructor, had provided a warm-up suggestion, and people would decide how far they were going to push, and Matt indicated that he was going to go over 75 yards. So I was ready that you were going to go over 75, but then you almost went to 90 or 95. So the LMC occurred around 95, and we weren't expecting. I mean, I didn't know that you could go to 95.
And so to me, there's this bit that says, what's a surprise, and why does the surprise happen? Because, when, so there is that piece of, right, I'm going to, potentially push the limit, see where it goes. And if that's the case, then it's from your side or whoever's in the rescue side is, what are the cues and clues? So not just the distance side, because actually, if Matt's capable of doing 100 meters, that's, it's not an issue. So one of the challenges is, it's meters, Chris, not or yards. Sorry,
we're American,
whatever distance. So the bit then is, what are the visual cues that let you know as the rescue team that something isn't quite going right, and how do you brief that? Tacit knowledge is really difficult to get across to people, and I think the breath hold diver is not going to be the person that helps that. So it's the external viewers, and how do you share that knowledge to say this isn't what we were expecting, so now you can back brief? Because you said, so they're talking to you, Nicole, you said his distance, okay, fine, so even if the distance is within limits, what is it that indicates something isn't quite right? And, what is it that you're looking for? And if you're going to train somebody else, because you might be distracted at that stage, you shouldn't be, because you're going to be the safety person. What is it that other people should be looking for that something isn't quite going right? You're on mute, Nicole. Nope, still mute. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
But then there's echoes. Do you want to go and sit in the audience? But leave your computer there, because I think if you take your computer, it's going to go echoey big time. Yeah, like that.
I have a assistant. I'm so sorry.
Feeding back into the system. Maybe her volume should be down.
So, Andre, it's a good point, and that's what I'm trying to get to, is what then leads to the rescue and the recovery. So the detection piece is, how do you know something's going?
We just figured it out, everyone.
Okay. So there's a couple of bits then is, Nicole, what are you looking for? And then Andre's just asked the question, what's the story from the rescue team? What did they see? And how long did Matt take to recover from the LMC?
Now I can't hear what they're saying.
Right. So can you hear me now, Nicole?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So the first question is, what are the visual cues that you're using to detect that something isn't right?
I saw that he was not doing his recovery breaths properly.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all. I have an assistant who's doing things and I don't know what is happening. We fix one thing and we break another. Please bear with us. All right. I think we're good.
Okay. So
The visual
you
cues
notice
was
he's
that
not
he was
doing his
doing
rescue breaths.
recovery breaths properly.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next piece then from Andreas is, what's the story from the rescue team? So what happened when you saw that the rescue breaths weren't being done, or the recovery breaths weren't being done? What happened next?
I got next to him and I held him up and I said, breathe, Matt, breathe, which is what we were taught. That's the procedure.
This sucks.
This does suck. Robbie, turn off the mute.
No, can't hear you now.
Okay, you should be able to hear me now.
Yeah, I
Okay,
hear
we're gonna
you.
do it like this for now.
Yeah.
Please remind me where I was. I said,
You're in the water and you're telling Matt to breathe.
so I told him to breathe, and I noticed that even though I was telling him to breathe, he was exhaling. And exhaling wasn't really going to help him. And then I thought to myself, maybe I should say inhale instead. And I think I switched to saying inhale, and then he did start to inhale and resume normal breathing.
Okay, and so the next question then is, how long did it take Matt to recover from the LMC?
Not long.
Yeah, maybe
Not
30
long, a few seconds.
40
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
Okay, so next question I've got then is, when you said you changed to inhale, what's the standard? So again, we go back to normal. What does normal look like when it comes to getting somebody to recover? Is inhale the standard term, or is it breathe? I mean, the answer is I don't know. Is what I'm asking.
Yeah. That is a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because the way that the dive industry is structured, right? You get folks who are taught by IDA, you get folks, NAUI, I'm a NAUI freediving instructor, and many people do different things, and there's not really a standardization. So in NAUI, it was hook breaths, and you did 6 hook breaths. Oh no, sorry. In NAUI, you do cleanse breaths only, unless you're going from depth.
The
And then
instruction, the command.
hook or cleanse. Cleanse, actually, technically cleanse. That's what, per the textbook, per the instructor textbook of NAUI, the proper procedure of coaching somebody on their recovery breathing is cleanse, cleanse, cleanse.
Okay.
Now, in our community, we have talked and discussed and said that doesn't sound like it's the best option and not what all the other agencies do. And instead, the breaths should be oxygenating breaths or hook breaths. So that's a different motion. And so they're hook breaths. So that is recovery breathing. However, a rescue, an LMC rescue is breathe, breathe, breathe. So there's a little bit of, okay, please demonstrate cleanse breaths. I've never heard this term. So cleanse breaths are in order to get rid of carbon dioxide. So breath out.
Okay.
Hook breath, bring oxygen in. So active inhale. Okay. So that is what you do. However, an LMC rescue, per the textbook, is supporting the victim and holding them up and encouraging them to breathe.
So
Breathe.
so the bit then is, what's the trigger for LMC? Is it excessive CO2 or is it hypoxia?
Hypoxia.
Right. So actually the cleanse piece is not what's needed.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've changed my protocol actually. So before, I have no idea why I was doing this, but I was sort of this like forced exhale. So but since then I've like changing my thing to like just a grasping of air. So and then a passive exhale. So that's changed my protocol, personal protocol I do after every dive. So I'm gonna grab for air.
Per the textbooks, it was cleanse. That's, you know, an instructor out of their instructor course is going to be teaching somebody to do cleanse. And if you stop and think for a second, we had to, as a community, all decide on a uniform recovery procedure, which is we have a standard, so oxygenating breaths, and then we signal to in the direction of the lifeguard on every breath hold, even if it's short. We signal to the lifeguard.
Go on, Louis.
When I first took free diving, Nicole told me about breathe ins and breathe outs, which of course are very important, and the recovery breathing, which she says.
Yes. And so when I was a green instructor, I was only teaching per the textbook, cleanse. And I taught a few students that way until I had much more experience, and I had I don't know, sometimes you wonder, should you question the textbook as an instructor? And I made calls to Dan. I spoke with the other competitive freedivers that I know, and we all improved on what our community's recovery procedure would be. Now, note that is straying from what the freediving textbook tells you to do.
Okay. Robbie has made a good point. Yeah. So whenever a person's testing or pushing limits, it should be done with someone who knows your swim technique and rhythm before a hypoxic event. There's typically deviance to that rhythm and technique. So this goes back to that bit of where does the bit where you say, right, I'm going to go from 75 yards to 100. That's a big step. Is following this event, have you put something in terms of limits that says actually we'll only do 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever, beyond what the maximum already swum is?
That is something that we were hoping to do as a community today. That's why we're having this.
Okay, well, so this go to me. This is it shouldn't. It's that bit of from a diver perspective, they're probably not the people to make the decisions. And to me, this then goes down to Matt and Nicole as the I'm going to say the educated people to say, okay, we're going to put a limit on this, and we're going to say, right, if you're going to want to swim beyond 10% or 15%, whatever, I don't know what the number is going to be, beyond what you already swum as a maximum, then actually we've got to put some protocols in place. What are our fail-safe protocols in place? And it's this gradual extension. And the team, the divers within the community need to know what those standards are, because you can't hold somebody to a standard if they don't know what the standard is. Okay, thanks, Sarah. I'm not a free diver, so I've got no idea what the limits are. So thank you.
I didn't get to catch Sarah's comment.
Oh, sorry. She said many competitions only allow you to announce 5 meters greater than your PB.
Yes. So that sounds like our community needs to also have those.
Yeah.
Those
I mean,
limits.
so the other thing then is, as any sort of learning event happens, is not just this, but where else are there standards, expectations that there are assumptions they exist and there are assumptions that they're being followed. So not just this, you sit there and go, okay, so we've just talked about 2 or 3 things. One is the commands for getting somebody to rebreathe, to basically get people going. We've talked about the extensions of distance of what's an acceptable limit. Within your community, what other written, unwritten standards do you have that need to be discussed to say what next?
I believe that one of the assumptions that we make, so in our community, we have folks that I have taught from 0 to, continuing to train with us, from their first time trying to free dive. And then we also have folks who have reached out to us that they are certified from other places and they come and they join us. Now, as mentioned, there's no uniform. We need to have a way to make sure that everybody knows what the recovery procedure is.
Not just so the bit here from the learning is it's not just about the recovery procedure. It's about whatever protocols you have within your community. It doesn't matter what they are. They just have to be consistent amongst the community. So we know what those standards are, and then it's easier to call out. One of the biggest problems in the diving industry is this huge gray area of what a standard is. So is somebody breaching the standard because they've made a mistake, because they're intentionally pushing beyond it, or they've been taught differently to the standard? And if you don't have a standard, how do you go up to somebody and say, hey, Nicole, I'm not quite sure about that. Is that what's supposed to be happening? Oh, no, that's what I was taught. Oh, all right. This is how we within our community have all these protocols. So, I think from a general learning piece is whatever protocols you have, you define what those protocols are within your community. Doesn't matter what they are, just as long as they're consistent.
Agreed. One of the obstacles is the courage, I suppose, or the even audacity to stray from what I was taught in my instructor course, right? And when I teach courses now, which breathe ups do I teach? Because the safety that I teach in my class, in my in-person class, does not match what the textbook says. And so there's, am I going to get in trouble? And why are there so many conflicting stories about what you should be doing? And usually I call Dan to kind of give the end all be all, because that's what I've figured is, appropriate. But really, where do we, if breath hold competition and this kind of training is illegal, and even the lifeguards don't have this in their curriculum, I provide free training to all the lifeguards in our community. Where do we look for these standards, and how can we create them as a community and know that they are sound without making mistakes and evaluating afterwards?
So what do the governing bodies say?
What governing body?
Okay.
Oh, are you talking about like the legislation in New York?
No,
or are you talking about standard?
So the sort of the, yeah. So there we go. What Ollie has just put, there must be, those high level bodies like ADA, SSI. There must be something written down at the high level within the competitions to say this is how we do stuff. So there we go. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm gonna to Ollie's point, I was going to clarify that
I was trained through NAUI, which is a partner of PFI, Professional and
Yeah.
International, and it's the same textbook, and so that's different.
Okay. My view at the moment is you have got so many gray areas that you're dealing with that I'm not sure that you as an individual can actually define what is an acceptable standard or not.
I would disagree, because at least when it comes to the protocols for our community, every time we have a new person, we refresh what the proper recovery breathing protocols are. We go over a blow tap talk. And now, after this, I did not know about the 10% of your personal best. I was not taught that. And so that is something new. And it sounds like that is a standard that we are going to implement moving forward.
So the bit then is what you're saying the sort of the NAUI terminology and the process you follow is different to other organizations.
Yes, and the material is a copy of PFI, so it's the PFI standards. It's the same.
Okay. So where does PFI sit with ADA and SSI and Molchanov's and PADI? What's the I'm going to say the safest of those standards that are there then? Because the thing is, if you're bringing people into your community, what is it that you're using as a baseline?
It's funny, right? Because when I became an instructor, and this is how many divers, scuba divers, everybody teaches, you just go to the instructor closest to you in your location, and you don't care what agency, that's a secondary concern. So I went and took the instructor course that was closest, that was convenient, that was available at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, right? All the other ones are just acronyms to me. And where am I going to get the information? Am I going to get to Facebook?
So here's the learning now. You've had an event. So how do you go and find out what best practice looks like?
Usually I would call Dan.
But Dan is not, Dan would be Dan Insurance or Dan Freediving Instruction?
They have a medical hotline that is tired of me calling. I call them every other week.
Yeah, so the bit then is, from a medical hotline point of view, they're probably not going to be looking at the training standards that are talking about from this side. I don't know enough, but I would have said that the medical hotline is not going to know what the standards are for the organizations.
Ollie has a really great comment.
Yeah.
He's saying that freediving is such a quickly developing field of knowledge that the curriculum and the standards are being updated every 2 years. Unfortunately, the US agencies have not done that in a very long time. And I'm going to make another comment about that, is when traditionally I've been teaching for 3 agencies now. And when a standards update comes, it's hard to get to all the instructors. It's hard to distribute it. And sometimes they make you pay, $600 to recertify and catch up. And so it is really difficult to keep up with the ever-changing standards as we discover what are the best practices.
Okay. I'm surprised at PFI having moved into the whole ITI family that's there. Chris, you said, is it possible for me to speak from a medical standpoint? This is all about learning. Go for it.
That's why we're here. We're not, yeah.
And I don't know how you join the chat. So
Lewis would highlight the comment and bring it up into the screen.
Yeah, but it's whether or not he can converse verbally.
Oh, I can send Chris a link. I'm just scared that the sound is gonna.
Yeah, but where is? How do I get off mute? There we go.
Let me. I'll send Chris a link. This is all so delicate. I'm so scared of the sound issues. We're going to have a separate debrief about this. Yes? So I am being... Were you guys able to hear that? Or should I repeat it? The question, what Otis brought up is that Ollie apparently has helped to contribute to some of the freediving curriculum and the other agencies. And the question was, where did he where does that information come from? So we will wait for the comments. But while we wait for our viewers to comment, it is apparent that the division, I have an issue with the dive industry having these standards that are proprietary and hidden from the rest of the world, and guarded to an extent, or behind paywalls. And me as an instructor, I don't even know how to access standards from other agencies. So that's not great. And it's kind of one of the reasons that I've been a proponent of a central cooperative that has accessible and democratic curriculum and education and standards.
Nicole, can you hear me? Or can anybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Chris.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Nicole, thanks for inviting me. Just some
Loud and
background
clear,
for
Chris.
everybody else. I've been in EMT since 1996. I'm a dive instructor. I've known Nicole for years and years. For anybody up in the Northeast, I was one of the lead dive medics at Dutch Springs for numerous years. I am not a free diver. I have never done free diving, so that part of it does not, I wouldn't say it doesn't apply to me, but I don't have any experience in that part. However, I have a vast experience in the medical area. And my comments to that was similar to CPR. Like Nicole was saying, there's a lot of different agencies that do it. If you want CPR, you can get certified from American Heart Association, American Red Cross, OSHA, a whole bunch of different agencies. It doesn't matter what agency you get certified from, the heart still beats the same way. So no matter what all these agencies teach about breath holding or any of this other stuff, it doesn't matter. Your body is still going to react the same way. So I think a lot of the training should be around how the human body reacts to a lack of oxygen, which is really what you're having when you're withholding your breath. When you're not breathing, your body starts burning other things. So no matter what these documents say or the doctrine or what else you're looking at, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to control how the human body reacts. And everybody's body is so different. I think that is only going to come from an experienced instructor who's working with the students, who knows how each individual's body reacts. I'll tell you right now, if I jump in one of these pools, I'll be lucky to make it one length holding my breath. That's just something, God bless you. That's just something that whoever my instructor is going to get to know about me. So I think it's more important for the instructors to focus on working with their students rather than worrying about what agency they're following or what they're doing, and have the training and the tools ready to evaluate somebody to know, okay, this is a lack of oxygen. This is what's going on. We need to treat this person. At that point, when you're having an emergency, the training that you've had in the freediving doesn't matter much. It's all about how is the human body reacting? How do we recover from this? And then we'll go on from there.
Understood. I'm going to wrap up segment 1 just because it's very late where Gareth is in, and I want to make a good impression so he comes back.
So Chris, I agree with what that point is, then having a standard that you can then agree within your community as to what you're going to do. So yes, I totally get the medical side of things, but then where's the lines in the sand that says this is how we follow through? And that's what I was saying about having standard protocol.
Yes, I agree to that part. Yes.
That's cool.
So what we're going to do for the rest of the piece today is we're going to say goodbye to Gareth and hope that we can handle it on our own. But we're going to talk about, Gareth, just let me know if you think that this is an appropriate next step. We should, as a community, agree on new procedures and protocols and standards and research them. Is that correct? What comes next?
So what I'll do is I'll send you something that I'm developing here. Is within your community, you will have a bunch of protocols that help you determine what is safe and what's not. You can then have a discussion piece that basically says, how effective do you think those protocols are? And identify the outliers and the ones that you don't think are working, and then come up with a standard set that's there. So I'll send you something I've been working on. But there will be a whole bunch of stuff that you do that there are assumptions about how it's done. You need to make sure that there's consistency within your team to know what that is, that community. And you need to define what that community is. And you also need to define, when people join the community, one of the stipulations of joining the community is these are the standards we follow, so that everybody knows you're off on the same song sheet. And then, as Ollie's just said, the protocols for when the proverbial hits the fan, they should all be fairly standard as well, based on physiology, not on other stuff. But having standards allows an idea of drift to be detected early.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No worries. I'll send some stuff to you, Nicole.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that human factors and the essentials course is, here's a shameless advertising, but I'm doing it for you because I really believe in it. I think that the essentials in your human factors in diving is a must for every single person that goes into the water ever. So
thank you. Good. All right, we'll see what we can do, and I'll send you some stuff later.
Thanks, Gareth. I'm going to stay on here and take us into segment 2. See ya. All right, everyone. So one of the comments that I saw here is, give us some takeaways. We just did a lot of talking, and what comes next? And I promise all of my talks, they always have takeaways. But first, what you're going to see is you're going to watch our community and those who want to participate just have an opportunity to chime in and offer suggestions and offer solutions. And then after this, we're going to talk about the petition that we are writing, and how you can contact, how I need you guys to help us contact our representatives so that we can move the legislation into legislation that serves our community better. Okay, cool. So community, many of you are here. What are your takeaways? And what should we do moving forward? Anyone? And chat is open too.
Yeah.
Everything we said so far, what people said so far makes sense to me. I'm gonna guess that there's nothing really written down. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about.
We have a poster with proper breathe-up protocol.
Yeah, not just breathe up, but a bunch of these other things, like how announcing your distance and that sort of stuff. But I think the thing that was skipped was Matt's comment, because this was establishing our baseline. So this, I think, the way I understood it is that the idea was to see how far you can really go. So that would be my understanding, that you're pushing yourself to see how far you can go. And I would think that it means, okay, there's a possibility that somebody who's pushing themselves, they will have this. It's part of the game. It's not like it's something, you don't die from it if somebody's there, right? So you're just ready for that person experiencing that and handling it appropriately. So I don't think that's a horribly bad thing that it happened. Just what to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for anybody who tunes in, I want to express that the event was handled pretty successfully. We had a successful outcome. And that is exactly, I think Gareth mentioned, that a system needs to be able to fail safely, to fail with a successful outcome. And one of the reasons that I brought everybody here and put Matt on blast is because we have to learn from near misses. We can't just say, oh, Matt's alive, cool, let's keep going. We should be treating this as if maybe there wasn't a successful outcome. And we need to be debriefing after every session, whether we had, after every dive, there should be a proper debrief about what went well so that we can reinforce proper behavior and where can we improve. And that is how we are continuously testing and improving our system of safety, if that makes sense. And maybe some of these senior freediving instructors come in and they're like, look at this person, she's green. And I enjoy learning and being challenged and constantly improving and critiquing how the dive industry operates and how instructors follow standards, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, you're right, Otis. We were engaging in a risky behavior, but risky doesn't mean bad as long as that risk is managed properly. And this meeting is part of the protocol that goes into successful and very strong risk management, and maybe sets the tone for how we need to run our community, how we all need to be on the same page. So many of our freedivers came today to contribute and participate and be part of strengthening our system. And they have an opportunity to critique the weak points of it, and that's how we improve it together. I'm going to take any comments, and I'm especially interested in what our community lifeguard has to say, and what our instructor, our resident Gold Star instructor, has to comment too.
I actually have a question for Pat, because he's more experienced in the freediving community. When it comes to like, I know it's like during the beginner, like the course people teach freedivers, instructors, it's mostly technique, like technique. Is there a standard when it comes to training, which is a little bit different from?
That's a good point. I'm going to repeat for anybody that didn't hear. In the chat, if you can indicate whether you can hear that, that will help me. But the question was, we have standards for certifying people for entry-level courses, but at least in our case, we don't have standards for continuing training.
Yes, training standards are tied to each other. It needs to be ascertained which is secondary to
Okay, because like one thing I business industry help a lot, because it's like weightlifting. We never did someone on one rep max anyway. Like like we're training, we're making people go, and later on did like the max days. And from the fitness industry, we kind of only go a little bit at a time, and about 5-10% of their weight until we get to their max. So like I think there is like a lot of freediving companies that actually require things that people want out there.
That's a good point. I think that the dive industry has a lot to learn from the fitness industry, and maintaining skills versus learning them once. Okay, so we've been here for about an hour. I promise to everybody that this is our first stream and the next one will be a lot smoother. So, Chris, Robbie was talking about how freediving has a lot to learn from the fitness industry and the performance increases there. Now, I know that we were going to talk about advocacy in the second segment, and I don't want this to go on for hours and hours for all of our viewers, but there is a lot more that we as a community have to do in order to go to our lawmakers and say, hey, let's legalize this. Here are the safety best practices, and here's why you don't have to worry. Ollie is saying that he has never had a student experiencing an LMC or a blackout. It all depends on how it's being introduced and taught. It's like driving a car, and how low life expectancy of people would be without proper training. And I agree. I think that because freediving is risky inherently, we have so many fail-safes and we treat it with that professionalism or respect or humility that risk management is required. It's not like jumping into scuba diving on a tropical island after drinking margaritas, which is also bad. But performance freedivers have a very different mindset, I would say. So yes, what our community is going to do off screen, and we'll provide updates, is update the poster that we have with our best practices and the rules. We're going to implement probably a super dive e-learning to anybody that comes, whether they're certified or not. We're going to have them, we're going to expose them to the same protocols and procedures, maybe even a test in for their first lesson. And then once we can solidify better standards, then we can start talking about legalizing breath hold competition in New York City, right? Competition inherently means pushing. It means people will test their own limits, and not everybody can be taught by me. Some people will be self-taught. So how do we make this accessible without, and make sure that people understand how much safety needs to go into it so that we don't have incidents and then the law gets reverted. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start wrapping up right here just because there's been so many technical issues that I'm just grateful that y'all are still here. Please sign our petition. I'm going to drop it into the comments. And if you sign it, you'll be subscribed to updates and the newsletter about any progress that we make. We do have a draft of a new potential law that is being given to an assembly person in New York. And what we're going to need is everybody to contact their local representative. We will have stamped postcards and we will help you contact your representative. Remember that contacting your local government at the smaller level and also donating to charities, whether it's ours or other missions that you believe in, those are one of the few ways that you can actually control where your tax dollars go and what you need your government to represent you for. So this is a grassroots movement of a community coming together to figure out and navigate best practices and then mobilize to make sure that our representatives know what we want and can give it to us. So now I'm just going to give about 2 minutes for any questions. I'm going to wrap it up now. Any questions from our viewers or from our studio audience? We're in a real studio, everyone. Oh yeah, we have our community lifeguard. Leo, did you want to contribute? I think the best way is for you to come here and talk straight to the phone.
Hi. Once again, I'm the lifeguard. And there are things that I would notice, like even like people in the pool, doing these breath holding contests, and since being aware of this, knowing when to spot that.
Yeah, actually, let's just mention that Leo, my pal, did not receive training. Was our freedivers the first freedivers that you have supervised, and were you prepared to supervise us before? Before our lesson.
You're off.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Here, press it. Somebody talk. Hold on, we're gonna fix this for next time. Okay. Sorry, y'all.
Sorry.
Let me in. Let me into the studio, Lewis.
Hold on, Nicole.
All right,
just a
here we go.
second.
And were you prepared to supervise a group like ours?
No, absolutely not. My training was only the American Red Cross. So
it's a big deal because that's all the lifeguards, right?
that's all the lifeguards. But and in my training said all you're gonna be doing is just doing the pool, not even worrying about things like beaches and water parks even. But but this is some real deal stuff right here.
Well, yeah. In part of the reason that the legislation happened is because advanced swimmers were blacking out. And the 4 fatal cases did involve lifeguard supervision and a rescue attempt. So that means that our lifeguards may not be necessarily prepared to handle these.
Exactly, and this right here is a game changer.
Okay.
For lifeguards, to open up the eyes of lifeguards to be able just to spot it, because they have to learn what kind of behavior, all the kinds of behaviors they see under their supervision, and this training is very beneficial. It might not happen all the time, but when it does, it's always important to be prepared.
Yeah. And how many times during our course, so I'm not advertising myself, the reason I'm saying this is because this is a systemic issue. And Leo is one of the best lifeguards I know. Leo knows the whole rule book front and back. So it's not because Leo is a bad lifeguard. But how many times during our course and during breath hold safety education was your mind blown? Can you recall any things that you learned that blew your mind?
That I did learn about when you're doing these things is to have safety, and to let people know what you're doing, and for myself, I found myself in the pool, just sitting on the floor of the pool, and every so often when I was sitting on the pool, I would reach out with a thumbs up to let everyone know that I was okay.
So that's a new behavior?
That is a behavior that I learned from watching you guys.
Well, I'm hoping that you had somebody directly supervising you also. I hope it was Liad. Shout out to Liad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so,
Excuse me,
all right,
Nicole.
Everyone.
Excuse me, Nicole.
Yes, Lewis.
Excuse me. I'd like to add in, since this is for Leo. Leo, since I said I used to be a lifeguard earlier, and the fact that I am trying to get my mermaid training, most pools I know, most pools here in Philadelphia don't allow breath holding nor mermaid tails, and I'm trying to also get that changed. And you see, one time I was in a meeting for summer camps with the YMCA, and lifeguarding. You see, they talked about a serious incident one time where a lifeguard was training to be a Navy SEAL, and he died from shallow water blackout.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. And so, exactly. Just a reminder that these events happen with advanced swimmers, with lifeguards on duty, and pools and legislators just respond by banning them. And we live in America, and I think we understand what happens when you ban a behavior instead of spreading public awareness and education. I'm alluding to, not to get political, but when you outlaw something, people will find other ways to do it, or to do it without telling anybody. And that's really where danger happens. When you're holding your breath, everybody should know what the safe behaviors are, right? So, all right. In conclusion, we are trying to change the legislation, but we have to do so responsibly, because we can't just say, all right, everybody go hold your breath now, and then have the news filled with sensational stories about all the danger and accidents that have happened. So moving forward, please sign our petition, and we will keep you in the loop about any progress that we make. All right. And I promise that next time our stream will not have inappropriate music. It's like surprising us all. We're going to get flagged on YouTube.
Not on Twitch, though.